During the days to come, you will hear Baha'i singers and musicians from many parts of the world. We have already heard the wonderful choir from the Congo. Tabarsi is a group of 6 Baha'i musicians from Spain who have adapted the traditional music of the Romani people, whom some of you know as the Gypsies, to tell the stories of the dawn breakers. Please welcome Tabarsi.
Y como el fénix del amor ve remontando hasta llegar al firmamento que te aguarda y conocer la santidad del bien amado. Y véngate las cadenas de este mundo y suelta tu alma de la prisión del yo que te domina y toma la oportunidad de hallar la calma. Es tan sencillo de comprender, tan hermoso de recordar, que si lo intentas y estás con él, tendrás la vida con bacalao. Es tan sencillo de comprender y tan hermoso de recordar, que si lo intentas y estás con él, tendrás la vida con bacalao.
En el jardín de tu corazón no plantes sino la rosa del amor.
La mala hierba la plantéis en el jardín del corazón y júntate con el que justo de por vida para que crezca en ti la rosa del amor. Con su palabra y la fragancia de sus labios te hablará. Solo procura no apartarte de su lado y solo así te sentirás en libertad. Es tan sencillo de comprender, tan hermoso de recordar, que si lo intentas y estás con él, tendrás la vida con bacalao. Es tan sencillo de comprender, tan hermoso de recordar, que si lo intentas y estás con él, tendrás la vida con bacalao. Bacalao, bacalao, bacalao. expresa su sufrimiento. Tantas penalidades, tenemos el contentamiento que del corazón nos sale. Solo con decir su nombre, mi corazón se engrandece. Y con él me siento vivo y mi alma se enardece. Bajaulá, mi corazón es tuyo, Bajaulá, a ti te pertenezco, Bajaulá, lo digo con orgullo, Bajaulá. Estamos lo que siento, Carmelo llama tío y anuncia felices nuevas, que el soberano y Señor se manifiesta en la tierra y en la tierra y en la tierra. Carmelo llama y anuncia felices nuevas, el soberano y Señor se manifiesta en la tierra y en la tierra y en la tierra. Están contentos, florecen como las rosas, es porque llevan por dentro sus enseñanzas hermosas. Desde que yo te he sentido, siento libre por ti. Mi corazón malherido de nuevo vuelve a vivir. Bajaulá, mi corazón es tuyo, Bajaulá, a ti te pertenezco, Bajaulá, lo digo con orgullo, Bajaulá. Estamos lo que siento, Carmelo llama tío y anuncia felices nuevas, el soberano y Señor se manifiesta en la tierra y en la tierra y en la tierra. Carmelo llama tío y anuncia felices nuevas, el soberano y Señor se manifiesta en la tierra y en la tierra y en la tierra.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Jack Lentz, the musical director of the events of this week.
The spirit of this occasion and all the various musics that you're going to hear in different styles of music from around the world is so wonderfully diverse and paints this incredibly beautiful picture of the diversity of the Baha'i community, not only expressed through our diversity of nation and race, but of our cultural expression. And so we hope that you will really take the time tonight to sink deep into the feeling, to experience this and to really enjoy it. And I would like to now welcome another part of the diversity that we are offering here, and that is in the form of an instrument that comes from Baha'u'llah's homeland, the santur. We have with us tonight, this morning, an extraordinary virtuoso. Doesn't it seem like night? An extraordinary virtuoso who has really shaped his playing of the santur into an expression which he feels is very closely aligned with the words of Baha'u'llah. Would you please welcome the internationally acclaimed santurist, Kiyu Hagigi.
Let us now welcome Dr. Albert Lincoln, Secretary General of the Baha'i International Community.
Beloved friends, one of the truly remarkable aspects of the Mount Carmel projects is the fundamental way in which they have changed the relationship between the Baha'i World Center and the surrounding society. Indeed, the achievement you have come to celebrate today is not ours alone. Without the cooperation, the encouragement, the input, sometimes critical but always constructive, of Haifa city officials, we'd not be here today. The Honorable Mayor of Haifa, Mr. Amram Mitzna, takes a personal and active personal interest in everything that goes on in this city, and he's been deeply involved in many aspects of the projects. Like his predecessor, Mayor Gorel, he has used his leadership position on many occasions to resolve problems, to remove clear obstacles from the path, and to speed the pace of progress. We're deeply grateful for his friendship and for his support. Would you please join me in welcoming the Honorable Mayor of Haifa, Mr. Amram Mitzna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and good morning, and welcome. Welcome from the bottom of the hearts of all the citizens of Haifa. It gives us a great, great pleasure to be here with you during this so important, emotional week. We were looking forward to be with you, and we are so happy that you came and you share with us, the citizens of Haifa, this beautiful city, this beautiful community. And in the heart of this community are the Baha'is hanging gardens and the Baha'i World Center. Since I remember myself, and many, many years before, Haifa and the Baha'i community went together. I'm not sure that we could see Haifa as a city as it is today without the Baha'i World Center and of course the magnificent, the beautiful and the wonderful hanging gardens in the center of the city. We would like to thank you all, wish you all the best. I'm sure that you'll pray with us for peace, stability, and no more war in this part of the world. And I'm sure that you'll feel that Haifa is a very special city, taking together, respecting, giving a room and a place to each and everybody without any difference of race, of culture, and of religion. And this is the beauty of this city, and it is no wonder why the Prophet and those who were the beginners of the Baha'i faith found Haifa to be the world center. Again, thank you very much. I'm sure that when you'll be back home, you'll be better Baha'is and you'll be ambassadors of goodwill to the city of Haifa. Thank you all very much.
A very warm thank you to the Mayor of Haifa, Mr. Mitzna. We will be seeing him this evening along with many other Israeli authorities. How fortunate each of us is to be present here at this time on God's holy mountain. The circumstances that have brought the Baha'i world to this moment tell much about our community and the cause which we serve. The Universal House of Justice has asked Mr. Matthew Weinberg of the Baha'i International Community's Office of Public Information to explore with us the significance of the events in which we are now participating. Please welcome Mr. Weinberg.
Today, we commemorate a sacred history of unexampled love, supreme sacrifice, and divine vision. It is a narrative prefigured in the pronouncements of the great seers of the past. As we stand awestruck at the majestic structures and the tapestry of beauty now defining the face of God's holy mountain, and ponder the mysterious processes responsible for the remarkable transformation of this once barren domain, the words of Isaiah echo on all sides. Carmel and Sharon, they shall see the glory of the Lord and the splendor of our God. In an enterprise revealing a tenacity of purpose, a sustained selflessness, and the power of unified action, the followers of the greatest name in all corners of the planet seized a unique moment in time and brought to realization the vision found in the tablet of Carmel. Rejoice, for God hath in this day established upon thee his throne, hath made thee the dawning place of his signs, and the dayspring of the evidences of his revelation. The raising up of the metropolis of the kingdom of Baha'u'llah evokes astonishment at his eternal might and gratitude for his generous dispensations of grace. For we are nothing more than his humble instruments, striving to achieve his just and compassionate purpose. The completion of this grand undertaking at once provides evidence of the tangible greatness of the cause of the Abha beauty and is a testimony to the existence of an objective spiritual reality. For such an accomplishment could not be brought about by human effort and insight alone. Certainly, the spiritual forces involved lie beyond our comprehension. As Baha'u'llah himself testifies, this truly is a revelation which revealeth itself only once every 500,000 years. Thus have we removed the barrier and lifted the veils. This occasion offers us the opportunity to look back at a fate-laden and triumphant spiritual journey. More than 150 years ago, a youthful prisoner, banished to a desolate mountain fortress, boldly addressed the ruler of Persia in these words: I am the primal point from which have been generated all created things. I am the countenance of God, whose splendor can never be obscured, the light of God, whose radiance can never fade. Speaking with an astounding power, reminiscent of the prophets of old, the Bab proclaimed the arrival of a new day, that long-anticipated moment in human history when the promised one would fill the earth with equity and justice and with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. His trumpet blast of knowledge awakened the darkened land of Persia and endowed all who responded with a new eye, a new ear, a new heart, and a new mind. His message, though, was not directed to that land alone, for he was the bearer of a revelation destined to transform the spiritual life of the human race. O ye peoples of the earth, the Bab declared, enter ye, one and all, through this gate. To pass through this door was to step out of the darkness into the light of God's love and compassion. It led to the path of truth and the ways of peace. The Bab was the portal through which the long-expected universal manifestation of God would soon appear. He clarified the central aim of his mission by explaining that the purpose underlying this revelation, as well as those that preceded it, has been to announce the advent of the faith of him whom God will make manifest. The basis for all human accomplishment is to be found in the teachings of this most great luminary, and the sum total of the religion of God, he says, is but to help him. For the Bab, a climacteric in human development had been reached, and he was the voice of the crier, calling aloud in the wilderness of the Bayan, announcing to humanity that it was entering the period of its collective maturity. The unbounded ardor and intrepidity engendered by the Bab's clarion call marked the first chapter in an extraordinary drama of spiritual and moral renewal. The heroism of his lovers, their superhuman fortitude and deeds of consecration shook Persia to its depths and attracted the attention of the world. Engulfed in a maelstrom of fanaticism and hate, the followers of the Lord of the age evinced prodigies of courage and devotion that defy all description. Through the blood which they shed, Baha'u'llah affirms, the earth hath been impregnated with the wondrous revelations of thy might and thy glorious sovereignty. And it is that same blood, Shoghi Effendi states, which constituted the seed of a divinely conceived administrative order destined to overshadow all mankind. We cannot forget, then, the shedding of this crimson ink by the thousands of Babi heroes and heroines when we gaze upon the monumental structures on the mountain of God. At the center of our thoughts is the ultimate, the glorious sacrifice of the Exalted One himself. The fruit of the tree of God's successive revelations yielded its precious seed to the mill of adversity in the city of Tabriz, quenching temporarily the flame of that supernal light. When contemplating the inexplicable phenomenon of the Bab's martyrdom, our hearts are filled with wonder, and we are moved to exclaim our powerlessness before one who is omnipotent. The whole world, Baha'u'llah testifies, rose to hinder him, yet it utterly failed. The more severe the persecution they inflicted on that Sadra of blessedness, the more his fervor increased, and the brighter burned the flame of his love. He, who was the herald of a new era and the inaugurator of a great universal prophetic cycle, had, in the words of one prominent European writer, sacrificed himself for humanity. Like Jesus, he paid with his life for the proclamation of a reign of concord, equity, and brotherly love. Deprived of the youthful and magnetic voice, which was its instrument, the mysterious God-born force animating the new revelation then began to pulsate within the gloom and darkness of the Fiachal. There, he for whose sake the world was called into being, the supreme manifestation of God, anticipated by the Bab and all the chosen ones before him, began to radiate the light of an all-embracing and transformative love. From that black pit of deprivation and despair, the wronged one of the world and the all-knowing physician arose to diffuse the divine remedy of unity to the ends of the earth. He who is the ancient beauty hath come, Baha'u'llah himself avers, that he may quicken the world and unite its peoples. They, however, rose up against him with sharpened swords and committed that which caused the faithful spirit to lament. At one time they cast him into prison, at another they banished him, and yet another hurried him from land to land. Baha'u'llah suffered so that all the dwellers of the earth could be born anew. And as he attests in his most holy book, because he bore injustice, justice hath appeared on earth. And because he accepted abasement, the majesty of God has shone forth amidst mankind. Overcoming torture, imprisonment, betrayal, and exile, and scorned by political rulers and religious leaders alike, he, the unifier of the children of men and the organizer of the entire planet, succeeded in bringing into existence a worldwide community dedicated to belief in the oneness of God, the oneness of all the great religions, and the oneness of the human family. He had revealed himself to stir humanity from its strange sleep, to awaken it to its innate excellence, nobility, and beauty. The mystical quest had been redefined as a quest not only for meaning, but for a new way of life. A forsaken and forgotten prisoner called upon humankind to finally break free from the ancient shackles of prejudice, violence, superstition, and material desire. His tribulations and banishments, the vehicles of a preordained divine plan, eventually brought him to this, the most holy land, the abode of the prophets, the geographic and spiritual heart of the planet. And here he raised his tabernacle of glory on the hill of God. The New Jerusalem, the city of God, mentioned in the tablet of Carmel, the heavenly law, which is the guarantor of human happiness, had been established. The Lord of hosts himself pointed to the spot where the precious remains of his herald, the primal beauty, should find their permanent place of rest. The time foreordained unto the peoples and kindreds of the earth is now come, Baha'u'llah confirms. The promises of God, as recorded in the Holy Scriptures, have all been fulfilled. The eventual placement of the holy dust of the martyr prophet in the mausoleum on Mount Carmel, a signal victory of Abdul-Baha, and that shrine's further beautification represented a striking reversal of the tragic circumstances surrounding the Bab's ministry. The juxtaposition of two mountains, Maku and Carmel, now comes into clear focus. In this mountain I have remained alone, the Bab laments in referring to Maku, and in his presence, he continues, there is not at night even a lighted lamp. How mighty is the all-glorious one! The Bab is no longer alone on the mountain. He is now at the center of both the visible and invisible worlds. The point, as acclaimed by Baha'u'llah, round whom the realities of the prophets and messengers revolve, and the spot, as extolled by the Master, round which the concourse on high circle in adoration. The youth of Shiraz, the essence of essences, and the morn of truth had journeyed from a castle of oblivion to a lighthouse of splendor, lit by the oil of his incomparable sacrifice. The darkness of one had been supplanted by the divine illumination of the other. In remembrance of the linkage between the two mountains, in 1953, Shoghi Effendi reverently placed a fragment of the plaster ceiling of the Bab's prison cell in the fortress of Maku beneath the gilded gold tiles of his shrine's majestic dome. Thus, as foreseen in the Holy Book, the spirit of Elijah had come back to the mountain of the Lord to once again serve as a luminous beacon pointing to the perfect way. Indeed, Shoghi Effendi refers to the sepulchre of the Bab as the dawning place of light. She is the queen at the heart of the world, who each day, in her evening glory, is the visible expression of the Bab's cry, I am the lamp which the finger of God hath lit and caused to shine with deathless splendor. And tonight, we shall see yet one more miracle. This mighty lamp, crowned in gold, shall be encircled by a myriad other lamps, setting the entire mountain ablaze in light. And so we shall behold light upon light. How great is the potency of thy might, is the guardian's tribute to the Queen of Carmel, a might which has bewildered the souls of the favored ones of God and his messengers. As she glows with brilliance, and with her wings spread over the guiding institutions of God's cause, we cannot fail to recall the divine assurance given to the Bab. Be thou patient, O Qurrat al-Ain, for God hath indeed pledged to establish thy sovereignty throughout all countries and over the people that dwell therein. In our inauguration of a befitting approach to the sacred spot enshrining the earthly remains of the gate of God, one day to become the pathway of the kings and rulers of the world, we can discern a momentous victory of the meek. In accordance with prophecy, at the time of the appearance of the Promised One, it is said that all things are to be reversed. Baha'u'llah explains, through this reversal, he hath caused the exalted to be abased, and the abased to be exalted. The dedicated and selfless efforts of Baha'is across the decades of the 20th century to raise up and adorn the shrine of the Bab, as well as the great administrative center in its shadow, is undoubtedly a triumph of the unheard peoples of the world. Adhering to the vision and guidance of the Master and the Guardian, the followers of the Blessed Beauty in every land, that noble but humble army of light, overcame all obstacles and vanquished the forces of darkness that sought to extinguish the divine flame, kindled by the Bab and intensified by Baha'u'llah. Reflecting on these events, we can only say, glorified, glorified be his meekness. The verdant natural mosaic, now extending from the foot to the crest of Mount Carmel, presents humankind with a profound message of hope. The struggle for the spiritual regeneration of the world, which is our faith's ultimate mission, is in some sense given expression by the greening and blossoming of this mountain. As the variegated elements of the gardens encircling the holy precincts effloresce into ever more resplendent patterns of beauty, so too our teachings tell us the earth of human potentialities will blossom with its own latent excellence and flower into praiseworthy qualities. But these capacities of the human spirit will only flourish through the restoring waters of pure intention and unselfish effort. The magnificent gardens and flowing waters now decorating God's vineyard speak to the nobility of human beings, of what is possible for human society to achieve when it consciously turns to the bountiful outpourings of the Holy Spirit. They suggest quite directly that the transformation of the outer world is contingent upon an inner transformation of the heart. In 1911, Abdu'l-Baha, in his first public address in the West, in London, declared, "This is a new cycle of human power. All the horizons of the world are luminous, and the world will become indeed as a garden and a paradise." As humanity traversed the subsequent decades of the century, a century darkened by harrowing periods of ferocity and depravity, and illumined by elevating flashes of creativity and unity, Abdu'l-Baha's vision of a transformed world unfolded. While the consummation of his vision is likely to occur only in the distant future, its essential features and direction have been irreversibly established. At this juncture, the very purpose of the Baha'i community is to demonstrate that it is possible to create gardens of justice and understanding, patterns of collective life based on trust, cooperation, rectitude of conduct, and genuine concern for others. May our own unremitting quest for unity and diversity illuminate others, and as the terraced gardens of Carmel manifest in their beauty and diversity the ideal of harmony, may the world itself recognize its capacity to effect the unity which is the only pathway to peace and well-being. We thus offer to humanity two powerful examples, ourselves and this mountain of splendor. In executing the mandate given to him by the Master, the beloved guardian, through immense effort and creativity, embellished the shrine of the Bab with an exquisite shell, designed the ark on the hill of God, and beautified the holy precincts. Each step he undertook in the development of the World Center was matched by a great thrust forward in the teaching field. As Shoghi Effendi mapped the terrain of Mount Carmel, he also mapped the earth to every last degree. Under his energizing and divinely inspired leadership, and in accordance with the plan conceived by the Center of the Covenant, a valiant band of believers extended the spiritual dominion of Baha'u'llah to the remotest regions of the globe, presenting to the world a working model of a unified commonwealth of peoples. This response to the summons of the Lord of Hosts led to the great victory of 1963. With the election of the Universal House of Justice, the sailing of the Ark of God's laws mentioned in the Tablet of Carmel was realized. Through this unique collective act, the long-awaited scales of justice had been raised by the Baha'is of the world, and the hand of omnipotence had established his revelation upon an enduring foundation. The living waters of everlasting life, Shoghi Effendi indicated, would now stream forth from that fountainhead of God's world order upon all the warring nations and peoples of the world, to wash away the evils and iniquities of the realm of dust and heal man's age-old ills and ailments. The establishment of the supreme body of the cause constituted a remarkable demonstration of the spirit of faith. This spirit was again manifest in the monumental projects of the past decade. Given the privilege of building up the agencies of the New World Order, foreshadowed by the Bab, enunciated by Baha'u'llah, and established by Abdu'l-Baha, the project drew the support of every segment of our community. And how could it be otherwise? For as Shoghi Effendi has explained, the World Administrative Center of the Baha'i community stands as the emblem symbolizing the basic unity of all nations, governments, and peoples, and as the seat of sovereignty and the dawning place of both spiritual and temporal power. It is the supreme center to which the followers of his most sublime and glorious faith must turn, and the focal point which will mirror forth upon all regions the effulgent splendors of the celestial throne of him who is the creator of men. It is the fountainhead of divine civilization, which is the fairest, the noblest fruit of the revelation of the most great name. This then provides insight into our essential identity. As Baha'u'llah is the prophet of civilization, we are the builders of civilization. As he is the divine educator, we are students, learning to apply his teachings to the problems and needs of the world. As he is the source of light, we are the agents of light, casting beams of love and confidence into the darkness. We are therefore instruments amplifying Carmel's call. He that was hidden from mortal eyes is come. His all-conquering sovereignty is manifest. His all-encompassing splendor is revealed. Our mission is the spiritual empowerment of the whole of the human family, to open up vistas of justice, freedom, and culture that have never before been seen. A race of men, Baha'u'llah assures us, incomparable in character, shall be raised up, which will cast the sleeve of holiness over all that hath been created. The stunning structures on the ark provide a glimpse of the civilization to be. In their features of balance, proportionality, and harmony, they echo Baha'u'llah's exhortation to humanity to return to the golden mean, to the middle way, to infuse all endeavor with equity, mutuality of purpose, and moderation. In their sublimity and elegant solidity, the buildings now erected offer a striking contrast to the disintegrating institutions and bankrupt mores of a directionless society. To a shaken and agitated world, they reflect the calm new light of peace and of truth which envelops, guides, and sustains those who have embraced the law and love of Baha'u'llah. The achievement that we have gathered to celebrate is one truly worthy of our spiritual forebearers. It is an accomplishment that both vindicates the suffering of the Bab and Baha'u'llah and foreshadows the wonders that the age of human maturity will reveal. In bringing these extraordinary projects to fruition, we can now begin to visualize what the writer of the Apocalypse saw long ago. Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. In pondering the significance of what the lovers of Baha'u'llah have wrought on the mountain of God, we can only recall the words of one of the 7 martyrs of Tehran, who, while awaiting the moment of his own death, gazed upon the bodies of the 2 martyrs who had preceded him and who still lay entwined in each other's embrace. "Well done, beloved companions," he cried. "Indeed, my brothers and sisters, well done."
Thank you very much. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. So come into my Unity house. The rain falls down. The wind is so strong, but it's warm inside. Come into my Unity house. The day is long. We're singing this song in the Unity house. Your turn. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. So come into my Unity house. The rain falls down. The wind is so strong, but it's warm inside. Come into my Unity house. The day is long. We're singing this song in the Unity house. Your turn. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Very good. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. So here comes one coming on the run, and here comes two coming after you, and three is me out on the deep blue sea, and number four is knocking at the door. So ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. One more time. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. Ba-ba-bum bum 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 bum. I think we could agree that this is by far the best group of singers we've heard in a long time. I think so. We'd like to do a song called In This Day, Baha'u'llah, and we'd like Van Gilmer, please, to sing. 1, 2, 3.
In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about justice. Oh, what a wonder, this justice. Surely it's the day of God. Blessed beauty, blessed beauty. Hallelujah, he has come. In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about oneness. Oh, what a wonder, this oneness. Surely it's the day of God. The day of God. What a wonder, surely it's the day of God. Blessed beauty, hallelujah, hallelujah, he has come, he has come. In this day, behold, talking about what a wonder, surely it's the day of God. It's the day of God. It's the day of God. The day of
We are now going to welcome, thank you very much, we're now going to welcome our friends from Spain, the Tabarsi group. And we'd like to welcome the Congo Choir. And while we're setting up, we'd like to sing a little song for you, just the three of us. It's not going to be what you think. This is a song about the call. And there's a wonderful story about when Abdu'l-Baha visited Montreal. And he used to go every day and walk up the stairs partway in the shrine in Montreal and look out the window. And he would stay there for some time. And May Maxwell asked him one day what he was doing. And he said that he was calling the souls in the future to the cause of his father, Baha'u'llah. So all of it are probably here because of Abdu'l-Baha calling us. So we'll sing a little song called The Call. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. I hear the angels singing. I hear the great bells ringing. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. I hear the angels singing. I hear the great bells ringing. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. Here comes the verse. Abdu'l-Baha stands by the window, calling the souls to the Father's cause. Abdu'l-Baha stands by the window, calling the souls to the Father's cause. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. I hear the angels singing. I hear the great bells ringing. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. I hear the angels singing. I hear the great bells ringing. The call, I hear the call. The call, I hear the call. Second verse. Calling
I hear the angels singing. I hear the great bells ringing. The call, I hear the call. The call, 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 the call, I hear the call. The call.
Camelo alawa. Camelo alawa. Camelo alawa. Camelo alawa. Camelo alawa. Camelo hello, about Camel, the mountain of God, the mountain of glory of God's faith, mountain of King of Kings, mountain of Lord of Lords, oh, the Spirit of truth, mountain of the thunder of Lord, a function of your civilization, mountain of new manifestation of God, mountain of glory of God. Hello, oh, Camel, 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 Camel. mudokelu. Abajo Dios no que bube. Hey, Bahaula no zodu. Bahaula no zodu. No zodu.
Dear friends, I think I speak on behalf of all of us, and I thank all of the wonderful musicians and participants in this morning's program. Such a wonderful morning. And I can only say this is but the beginning of a most extraordinary week for every one of us. We wish you a wonderful week. Please, we will now close with a prayer.
The glory of glories and the most resplendent light rest upon thee, O my God. Thy majesty is so transcendent that no human imagination can reach it. And thy consummate power is so sublime that the birds of men's hearts and minds can never attain its heights. All beings acknowledge their powerlessness to praise thee as beseemeth thy station. Immeasurably exalted art thou. No one can glorify thy being or fathom the evidences of thy bounty as it exists in thine inmost essence, since thou alone knowest thyself as thou art in thyself. I yield praise unto thee, O Lord our God, for the bounty of having called into being the realm of creation and invention, a praise which shineth resplendent through the potency of thine inspiration, which none other but thee can be fittingly appraise. I glorify thee, moreover, and render thee thanks as beseemeth thine awe-inspiring presence and the glory of thine overpowering majesty for this sublime blessing, this wondrous sign which is manifest in thy kingdoms of revelation and creation. All glory be unto thee. Immeasurably exalted is that which beseemeth thee. Verily, no one hath ever adequately grasped the loftiness of thy station, nor hath any one except thee recognized thee as beseemeth thee. Thou art manifest through the outpourings of thy bounty, while no one besides thee can fathom the sublimity of thy revelation. Magnified be thy name. Hath aught else save thee any independent existence so as to be capable of hinting at thy nature? And doth anyone but thee possess any trace of identity wherewith I could recognize thee? All that is known owes its renown to the splendor of thy name, the most manifest, and every object is deeply stirred by the vibrating influence emanating from thine invincible will. Thou art nearer unto all things than all things. Lauded and glorified art thou. Too exalted is thy loftiness for the hands of such as are endued with understanding to reach unto thee, and too profound is thy fathomless depth for the rivers of men's minds and perceptions to flow out therefrom.
honorable ministers, honorable justices, excellencies, distinguished guests, and Baha'i participants from all parts of the world, on behalf of the Universal House of Justice, the international governing body of the Baha'i Faith, I welcome you to the official opening of the terraces of the Shrine of the Bab. We also welcome viewers and listeners from all around the world. This event is being broadcast on Israeli radio and stations throughout Europe, and is being sent around the world to viewers and Baha'i communities in hundreds of locations like Samoa, Uganda, Namibia, the United Kingdom, Spain, Australia, Hong Kong, the United States, Canada, Brazil, and many other countries. We warmly welcome all of you. We are pleased to be joined tonight by soprano Patricia Green, tenor Stuart Howe, baritone Brett Poligato, violinist Bijan Hadem Nisa, Master Hadem Nisa, Vahid Hadem Nisa, the Transylvania State Philharmonic Choir, and the Israel Northern Symphony Haifa, and its conductor, Maestro Stanley Sperber. God is there but him, the Almighty, the best beloved. All that are in the heavens and on the earth, and whatever lieth between them, are his. Verily he is the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Out of utter nothingness, O great and omnipotent Master, thou hast, through the celestial potency of thy might, brought me forth and raised me up to proclaim this revelation. I have made none other but thee my trust. I have clung to no will but thy will. Thou art in truth the all-sufficing, and behind thee standeth the true God, he who overshadoweth all things. Indeed, sufficient unto me is God, the exalted, the powerful, the sustainer. Say, God sufficeth unto me. He is the one who holdeth in his grasp the kingdom of all things. Through the power of his host, of heaven and earth, and whatever lieth between them, he protecteth whomsoever among his servants he willeth. God, in truth, keepeth watch over all things. inaugural statement of the Universal House of Justice will now be read by the Secretary General of the Baha'i International Community.
With joyful and thankful hearts, we welcome all who have come from near and far to join us on this auspicious occasion for the Baha'is of the world. We acknowledge with deep appreciation the presence of so many distinguished guests. A century and a half have passed since that unspeakable tragedy in the northwest of Persia, when the Bab faced the volley fired at him from the rifles of 750 soldiers. The soldiers had followed the orders of the highest authority in the land. The Bab's mangled body was then thrown on the side of a moat outside the city, abandoned to what his cold-blooded persecutors thought would be a dishonorable fate. They had hoped thus to put an end to the growing influence of his teachings on masses of people throughout the country. These masses had accepted, in the face of intense persecution, the Bab's claim to prophethood, and their lives were being transformed spiritually and morally as he prepared them for what he said was the dawn of a new age, in which a world civilization would be born and flourish. The expectations that stirred countless hearts were heightened even more sublimely by the Bab's announcement that one greater than he would soon arise, one who would reveal the unparalleled character of the promised world civilization that would signify the coming of age of the entire human race. We are met not to lament the tragedy of the Bab's martyrdom and the persecutions that followed. Rather have we come to celebrate the culmination and acknowledge the meaning of an unprecedented project that had its beginning over a century ago. It was then that Baha'u'llah, whom the Ottoman authorities had banished to Acre to serve out his days in confinement, visited Mount Carmel and selected the spot where the remains of his herald would be interred. We humbly trust that the wondrous result achieved by the completion of the 19 terraced gardens, at the heart of which rises the shrine of the Bab, is a fitting fulfillment of the vision initiated by Baha'u'llah. The suffering sustained by the Bab, so as to arouse humanity to the responsibilities of its coming age of maturity, were themselves indications of the intensity of the struggle by which the world's peoples must pass through the age of humanity's collective adolescence. Paradoxical as this may seem, this is a source of hope. The turmoil and crises of our time underlie a momentous transition in human affairs. Simultaneous processes of disintegration and integration have clearly been accelerating throughout the planet since the Bab appeared in Persia. That our earth has contracted into a neighborhood no one can seriously deny. The world is being made new. Death pangs are yielding to birth pangs. The pain shall pass when members of the human race act upon the common recognition of their essential oneness. There is a light at the end of this tunnel of change, beckoning humanity to the goal destined for it, according to the testimonies recorded in all the holy books. The Shrine of the Bab stands as a symbol of the efficacy of that age-old promise, a sign of its urgency. It is as well a monument to the triumph of love over hate. The gardens that surround that structure in their rich variety of colors and plants are a reminder that the human race can live harmoniously in all its diversity. The light that shines from that central edifice is as a beacon of hope to the countless multitudes who yearn for a life that satisfies the soul as well as the body. This inextinguishable hope stems from words such as these from the pen of Baha'u'llah. This is the day in which God's most excellent favors have been poured out upon men, the day in which his most mighty grace has been infused into all created things. May all who strive, often against great odds, to uphold principles of justice and concord, be encouraged by these assurances. In reflecting on the years of effort invested in this daunting project, we are moved to express to the people of Haifa the warmth of the feeling in our hearts. Their city will for all time be extolled by Baha'is everywhere as the place in which the mortal remains of the youthful prophet herald of their faith finally found refuge. And this after more than a century of having to be secretly moved for protection from one place to another in his native land. The patience and cordiality shown toward the Baha'is throughout the most difficult years of the construction work exemplify the spirit of goodwill in which so much of the world stands so greatly in need. Haifa is providentially situated on Mount Carmel, with its immortal associations with saintly visionaries whose concern throughout the ages was largely focused on the promise of peace. May Haifa achieve wide renown, not just as a place of natural beauty, but more especially as the city of peace. Let the word go forth then from this sacred spot, from this mountain of the Lord, that the unity and peace of the world are not only possible, but inevitable. Their time has come.